Let's talk about getting old. You know, some of you are like, oh man. I usually avoid the word old. It seems like offensive, and we find ways to talk about it, around it, right? Like, I'm not old, I'm just seasoned. Perhaps some of you are merely vintage or classic. I'm not old, I'm just retro, or I like this one, wrinkle enhanced. Perhaps based on how it sounds when you stand up, maybe you're just crispy or in need of WD-40. You might say, I'm not old, I'm just 21 with a few years of experience. I'm only 30 plus shipping and handling. I'm not old, I've just been young for a very long time. Why is it that we're so afraid to say it directly? Some of you, perhaps, maybe you said when you were younger, don't trust anyone over 30. And oh boy, did that one change. Did you shift it upwards as you increased in age, or did you just reverse it? Don't trust anyone under 30. We treat it like it's something to be embarrassed of. Like, how could I let this happen to me? Let me tell you, even if you're not there yet, you young people, you will be someday. Well, it's either that or the alternative. Let me tell you this morning that our view of aging is worlds apart from the way the Bible describes it. And so I'm going to start out with just some fill in the blank. Okay, so this is out of the book of Job, and Job is struggling to understand, why righteous people suffer, and he's questioning God. And here's one of his complaints. He says, God, why do the wicked live on, growing old and blank? Somebody, what do you think he's going to finish that sentence with? Growing old and what? Growing old and driving 40 miles an hour down Route 63, is that what he's complaining about? Growing what? No, growing old and maybe getting all the best parking spots. No, here's what he says. God, I don't like that wicked people grow old and increase in power. Now, of all the things that you guys could have said that you would associate with increasing in age, increasing in power is not one of them. Let's go back to the beginning. How is the Bible having such a different view of aging? Death itself is a curse. Adam and Eve would have lived forever, but sin entered God's perfect world, and so death became the curse that followed it. And not only that, in the book of Genesis, what you have described is a slow decline in how long people are living, and that's viewed as part of the fall as well. A shorter life was part of the havoc that sin wreaked on this world. And when God brought judgment on people like the priest Eli for failing him, part of the curse that he gave him was that none of his descendants would reach old age. Just as short lifespans are considered a curse, old age brings honor and is a blessing. The book of Proverbs 16:31 says this: gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness. How many of you wore your crown this morning? See, part of God's promise to the people of Israel, if they followed his laws, was that he would bless them with a long life. So he says, look, if you have gray hairs, you're experiencing my blessing. Now consider, when this proverb was written, the average lifespan was like 40 or 50. Now a lot of that was, people dying at birth, but even then, very few people compared to today actually made it to experience the blessing of gray hair. Have you even considered, even a generation ago, how many diseases and disorders simply killed people without warning and without cure? How God has extended this blessing of old age to nearly everyone in our culture today. Or do we grumble about it and complain about our age? Proverbs 20:29 says this: the glory of young men is their strength. gray hair is the splendor of the old. So it's one of those things where he says a parallel structure. So in the same way that young men take pride in their strength, gray hair crowns the old. Sarah catches me doing this sometimes, like walking by a mirror, doing one of those, just a little bit. It drives her nuts. But you know what? I'm young and I got muscles and I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts, right? Let me ask you, old people, do you do the same with your gray hair? Are you ever like walking by a mirror like, hey, look at that. I mean, I'm going to be approaching that point soon, and we don't take that attitude to gray hair, do we? In fact, generally, we try and do the opposite, right? We're trying to cover up what God calls a blessing and a crown. In fact, age-defying products worldwide are a $250 billion a year industry. You can't open a magazine without seeing something like this. We're giving you the promise that if you just buy our product, you can look like this woman who's not only very much younger than you, but also has been computer enhanced to a level of perfection not physically possible. Guys receive the same. How many of you have seen ads like this promising, if you just buy my product, you can have grandkids and abs? I don't think so. But we're afraid of appearing old. Again, as though it's some kind of personal failing. And this is not a new thing. There is a book, a papyrus segment from 1600 BC, thousands of years ago, and here's its title: The Book for Transforming an Old Man into a Youth of 20. That kind of advertising is not new at all. People of every age, I think, have struggled with this. Now, hear me on this. I'm not saying, like, you're sinning against God if you dye your hair, if you wear makeup, or if you work out. But we do have to question our motives. Am I chasing something that is physically impossible, eternally physically impossible, just so we all understand? And am I doing so for the wrong reasons? Am I discontent with God's blessing? Now, I'm going to have to record this message and play it for myself in 40 years. Because I know already, some of you people are saying, wow, he's saying that because he doesn't, pop when he gets out of bed in the morning. And we'll see how you feel. But that's the way the Bible describes it. Old age brings honor. Not only that you recognize it in yourself, but a blessing God has given you in extending the days of your life. But in the Old Testament, there is an expectation that younger people would recognize this. Leviticus 19:32 says this: "Stand up in the presence of the aged, show respect for the elderly, and revere your God. I am the Lord." Let's actually do this. If you are not old, will you stand up right now? I'm not kidding. Stand up right now, and let's give a round of applause to the people who stand up. Now, I consider this one like telling select people to sit back down. No, younger people, stand up, and let's give a round of applause. All right, you can sit back down. God says this, not that the standing up part is the key of this, but the respect that you show for the elderly is part of how you show respect for me. Now, there are different ways of doing this. I got into the habit in North Carolina of referring to people older than myself as Mr. or Miss. In the book of Job, we have this argument Job is having back and forth with his friends. And there's this young guy who's sitting there, Elihu, who waits until they are done. And he says this: "Now Elihu had waited before speaking to Job because they were older. So he sat down and he kept his mouth shut in a display of respect for the opinion and the wisdom of people who had more age on that line." Now, isn't that the opposite of how it usually works? I'm still young enough to think I know everything. And, young people think I'm the first generation to ever think these thoughts and feel these things. When's the last time you took the time to sit in the presence of somebody older than yourself and maybe to listen? Christine loves Mr. Larry. She goes with me and she visits him in the nursing home, and she reminds me, if we haven't gone there soon enough, that she can bring him colorings and different things that she has done, and it is so important to me because I want her to see him as a human being. You know how easy it is for our culture to overlook the elderly? You who are parents, what example are you setting for your kids? Are you teaching them to love and respect the aged? Do you lead by example? Old age brings special care as well. There's this vulnerability that comes with age. Far more so back then. They didn't have wheelchair ramps to get into buildings. They didn't have wheelchairs at all. In fact, during the biblical period, here's what happened as you got older. There was no such thing as retirement. You would continue doing the thing that you had always been doing until the day that you could no longer do it. And at that point, either your family would take you in and take care of you and feed you, or you would starve to death. And so everybody, as they approached that age, there was this sense of, there's going to be a point where I can no longer help myself. That's why over and over and over again we are told by God to have special concern for widows along with orphans. In the New Testament, 1 Timothy 5:3, Paul writes to a young leader in the church, says, give proper recognition to those widows who are really in need. This is part of the ministry of the church, especially in a time without things like Social Security and Medicare. Part of the ministry of the church was to look after the needs of the elderly. It makes it clear that this is not just honor and respect, but financial support as well. I can't tell you how happy I am, and I never thought I'd say this, how happy I am going to be getting on the top of Miss Maisie's roof. As through your generosity and support, we saw a clear need. She really is in need of a new roof, and we get to live out what we are commanded to do in the Bible. Now, the church does this in general, but he goes on to say very specifically how this applies within the family first and foremost. In fact, he excludes from this list those widows who have family members that are able to support them and care for them. Here's what he says in verse 4. But if a widow has children or grandchildren, these should learn first of all to put the religion into practice by caring for their own family, and so repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing to God. Now, I understand in America we are so fiercely independent. We hate the idea of being forced to take care of anyone else. And yet he says, if you want to follow Jesus and you want to put what you say you believe into practice in your life, it begins in your own family and how you treat your parents and your grandparents as they age. I've talked to many people who have cared for their parents in the end of their life. And universally they share how it teaches them a new kind of tenderness and compassion. Here he says, you are repaying your parents. You ever remind your kids as they got older the stuff they put you through when they were younger? How many times you woke up in the middle of the night to care for them? They're yelling in your face. You know, I'll be honest, I'm tempted to maybe repay them the other way. And like when I get older, I just want to have a 15-minute argument with my kids about 3 bites of chicken. Just like help them to understand how I felt. Now this encouragement to repay your parents by caring for them comes with a very clear warning in verse 8. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. If you turn your back, and again, this is This is the same for those who are able. This is not possible in every situation. But if you have the means to provide for the elderly in your family and you turn your back on them, it says you have denied God himself. Be warned. Show honor, respect, and special care for the elderly. The last thing I want to tell you this morning is that old age brings new opportunity. Now, some of you will say, well, you got to understand, I'm not as strong as I used to be. And my question for you is this, though. Is there like some kind of bench pressing ministry in the church that I'm not aware of? I mean, it's not as though we give a fitness test to people who want to be able to share in the nursery, save the ability to make it down and upstairs. If you are able to make food, can you make cookies? This Thursday night, we are providing food for some 30 addicts in recovery who meet every week, and you can be a part. As easy as it is to make a set of cookies, you can impact their life for all of eternity. I'm not kidding, like this Thursday, please help bring food. By the way, the Celebrate Recovery Ministry is just exploding by leaps and bounds. If you are old, God has given you not only the wisdom and the experience that comes with age. By the way, I can't tell you how frustrating it is for me at the age of 30 to look back at the things that I thought and the way that I behaved at 20 and to think how terribly immature I was. And then that makes me think, well, what am I going to think of myself now when I am 40? You are blessed with the wisdom that comes with life experience. Not only that, but statistically speaking, your age group has the most what they call disposable income of any age group. That you have the most money that is in your hands that you get to do with whatever you want, more so than all of the younger generations. Now, that may not be true for all of you, but in general, it is the case. Not only do you have disposable income, but you have time. You have time because you don't have a baby waking you up 3 times in the course of the night. You don't have somebody asking you for apple juice every 15 seconds. Every 2 seconds, yeah, there and back. All right, you don't have, if you're retired, you do not have a job that you are trying to get through all the day long and then to get home and manage your other responsibilities. You have been blessed with the resource that everybody else wishes they had more of. So let me ask you today, does your giving and does your service and do your decisions reflect the resources that God has placed in your hands? Over and over and over again, we are told in the Bible about the decisions that people made at the end of their life. Specifically, like people as they hit old age. We are told about what Solomon did, what David, Joshua, Samuel, Moses, Eli. Lengthy sections dedicated to good or bad, the decisions and the actions they took at the end of their lives. And in many cases, that defined their legacy. Now, we live in a culture where companies advertise for jobs. This is an actual advertisement saying things like this: we want people who have their best work ahead of them, not behind them. Now, I understand if you're trying to look for work, that crown of gray hair that people may specifically reject you because they say, oh, we just want young people in. But God often chooses people who are specifically labeled, without shame, as old. Consider the people who are the major players in the birth of Jesus Christ. You have Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth were described as very old. Then when they dedicate Jesus in the temple, you have Anna, very old. And Simeon, who's described as basically waiting for death. And yet they get to be major players at the beginning of God's redemptive work. Moses and Aaron, I remind you, didn't do a thing for God until they hit 80. What is your excuse? I'm going to point to you a particularly interesting story as you get towards the end of the book of Joshua. The people of Israel, God has brought them out of slavery, and they have entered into the land that he promised them, and they have undertaken a military campaign, and they have defeated the major armies. And now they are beginning to divide up this land into the promised inheritance for the people. And Caleb comes forward. Now at this point, he is 85 years old. Not only is he 85 years old, he is 20 years older than literally all the other Israelites alive. You had that whole generation as they first came to the promised land. They rejected it. They said, oh God, we're so scared. God said, okay, you're going to wander in the desert till all of you die, except for the people under 20. Except for two people, Joshua and Caleb. Caleb was 40 years old at that point. He is now 85. The next oldest person other than him and Joshua is 65. So he goes to claim his inheritance, and this is what he says. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I am just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard that the Anakites were there and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out, just as he said. So he picks out, this is what God promised me. But there's a problem with the land. They defeated the major armies, but there were still fierce warriors living in well-defended cities. And do you know what all those young, attractive, vigorous people did in the nation of Israel when they hit this point? They entered the land. They got lazy. They settled down, and they did not take full possession of the land that God had promised them. As a result, the failing of the younger generations meant that for generations after them, there was struggle and hardship in the land. And yet here comes Caleb. Oldest of the old. I can't even imagine what the other Israelites thought of him. Oldest of the old. And he steps forward and he singles out this city. And he says, I know it is fortified. I know there's a lot of people, all of you are here with me. But I will go and drive them out. I'm not waiting for someone else. And he takes up a weapon and says, I'm going to take what God promised me. So he did. From Hebron, Caleb drove out the three Anakites. They were described as fierce, feared warriors. Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the sons of Anak. I imagine visiting Caleb's house and finding maybe like 3 skulls out there in the front yard, reminding all those young people, this is what I did. Caleb took charge of what God had promised him. Caleb didn't sit around thinking of how nice things used to be in Egypt back in the good old days. No, he led the charge into the new land. Caleb didn't just take a nice plot of land that would be comfortable and easy and settle down into retirement. He led the charge. Caleb did not sit around and complain about how the premillennials weren't doing anything and were too lazy and why wouldn't they step up and do something. No, he led the charge. And young people followed his example. Let me ask you today, why are you not leading the charge? So Karen's going to come forward and we're going to play a closing song. And what I'd like you to do, if you are near someone who is blessed With the long life so far, I would like you to place your hands on them, and I want to pray specifically for those of you in this time of special opportunity in your life. So when you get where you can put your hands on them or extend your hands forward, I would like to pray for you. Pray over you. God, I'd like to thank you for those who are here with us today, who you have blessed with length of days. God, I pray that they would not view this season of life as a curse or just something to be endured. In Isaiah 46:4, you say this, Lord, even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. God, will you sustain you? I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. God, will you carry them through and rescue them out of all situations they find them in? Their bodies may change, but you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. God, we want to ask you, though, for more than just health. Your plans for us are so much greater than just dealing with aches and pains. In Psalm 92, you say this, the righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like a cedar in Lebanon. God, nobody is beyond growing. Let them not be withering, but flourishing. Planted in the house of the Lord, they will flourish in the courts of our God. God, plant them in you more and more each day. Let their roots be in your word and their strength come from your spirit. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. Let this, Lord, be the defining time of their life, the moment of their greatest accomplishments for your kingdom. Proclaiming the Lord is upright, He is my rock, and there is no wickedness in Him. Let the witness of their lives be to your goodness and your grace. God, will you call up the younger generations to follow their lead? In the matchless name of Jesus we pray.